yeah, we will be talking about a few different things today. We'll be talking about the most efficient ways to learn a language. We're talking about some ways that you can improve the way you learn the language, so to make it easier for you. But one needs to remember that learning a language is a difficult process, and it does take time and effort. And yeah, we'll be talking about a few different ways to make it more successful. Okay, Connie is coming in now. Good. Okay, we're nearly at 7:30, so we can nearly start. So just a question for everyone. How long have you been learning English? Maybe English is your native language. Maybe not.
Yeah, you can type that in the chat box.
Yeah, you can either type it in the chat box or you can answer it. That's fine.
Yep, anything will work.
Okay, I think everyone is getting here.
Chat for you, so.
31 years. Daniel, you've been learning English for 31 years, so you've probably picked a few things up in that time, right?
Yes, I've started early.
Very good. What has been your experience with English? So can you tell us a little bit of your history when it comes to learning?
Sure, I'll go ahead. It started out like for most people in primary school, being just one of many subjects and a fun subject too. And it was taken to the next level once I spent a year in the United States. Over there, I had to survive speaking English. And the first 2 weeks, I didn't speak any word, even though I was pretty good at school. But then after 2 weeks, it started rolling a little bit. And after 1 year, I would say I was confident using the language. And after that time in the United States, I was an active English learner and I improved my English, I would say by about the same, like 100%.
Mm.
So since at the beginning of learning English to the exchange year, ever since then, I think I might have picked around about the same amount of English.
Mm-hmm. And can you give us a tip about, or a hint about what we might hear today? What was the most important thing in that 1 year in America that made you learn the language so quickly? What was that?
It was the love for the sound.
Love of the sound. Okay, interesting.
The love. The love not of the sound, but like my involvement with the sound, so to say. Like love for just producing the sounds with my mouth.
Sure.
And sounding American. I think that was it.
Cool. Yeah, very good. So Silvio's answered our question too. Silvio said about 5 years, and Silvio's doing a very good job with his English after 5 years. Very impressive. And Manuel said for 12 years, and Manuel's English is really good too. I remember from our last webinar, he spoke some, and very good. There he is. Okay, I think nearly everybody is here. And if they are not, we'll take it slowly so that they will catch up. Good, so thank you everyone for coming. It's really lovely to see so many people here, so many people interested in learning languages. So today will be broad. We won't be focused on only English. We want to teach you about learning all languages because we are interested in that too. Excuse me, I have to let people into the webinar, so I will have to do that from time to time. Okay, so if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask us. This is we want this to be an interactive process. We don't want to just sit here and preach to you. we would like to hear from you too. So please feel free to ask questions, put your hand up with Zoom, or put a message in the chat box, whatever is more comfortable for you. Please feel free. Okay? So, thanks, Lutz. All right, let's get started.
I have a question, Ryan.
Yeah, please go for it, Daniel.
Yeah. So everybody has their microphones on mute. Is that okay or is it not okay?
It might be easier to keep the microphones on mute unless you have something to say. That would be great. Yeah. Good point. Thanks, Daniel.
Okay.
Cool. Great. So, my first statement here is images and personal connections make remembering easier for the brain. So what do I mean by images and personal connections? So images are quite clear. One of the tasks that I usually do when I'm trying to learn new vocabulary in German, that is my target language, my foreign language, is use Google Images. So instead of using a dictionary or a translator to translate the word from German into English, I will look up the image on Google Images, and that will show me a picture. It will also show me more things than what I would get from a definition. For example, let's take the word Schrank in German. Okay, if I type Schrank into a translator, it will give me a single word usually. It might give me cupboard, but we all know that a Schrank in German is not just a cupboard. It can be a set of drawers. It can be, it looks very different in many different settings. And by looking at the pictures, we get a better understanding of it. Daniel, you might want to say something about the personal connection and what effect emotion has on remembering.
Well, am I allowed to share my screen?
You certainly are.
Okay, so I'm doing that. So I just did what Ryan said. So this is how he learns German for some parts, at least. So entering Schrank and looking at all those crazy things. They are all cupboards, but we call it Schrank. Now, all of them are a Schrank, but they look very different. And by looking at pictures, we connect emotions to a funny looking cupboard, for example, or for a very stylish one that we like or one that we find ugly. And that triggers our, the hormones in our brain that make the connection stronger. So putting emotions into the learning process is key when it comes to Schrank. Now, just to test, if I type cupboard, what will it give us? Will it give us the same Schränke?
They look similar.
It looks really similar. Is that because Google's doing that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so for Schrank, it's similar picture. Okay. Very
good. Yes, and Daniel talked a little bit there about emotions, and when I speak in English, I use a lot of emotive language. I'm very passionate about it. I'm also very passionate about German, and when I speak in German, and when I talk about things that touch my heart, or that make me angry, or that make me afraid, or some of my fears, it connects those words that I'm using to those emotions, and it's like a hook. It's like a hook that I can hang that word on. So particularly when we're learning new words, it's so important to think about and connect those words to emotional events and history for us. It really is the best way to remember new vocabulary. One of the other points we will talk about too is building stories. So if we can build stories that are unreal or real stories are even better, it also helps us remember. So this part of images and personal connection, the images are also the stories in our mind, right? Good. Daniel, you have something to say?
Because it says images and personal connections, what are the personal connections there? Are those the emotions?
Yeah, sure. But I also think, for example, when we are learning travel vocabulary, it's so important to connect the travel vocabulary to the travels that we have had in our life. So it's so important to talk about our own experiences, the personal connection with the new word. It will go deeper into our long-term memory, and it will go faster into our long-term memory. Okay.
And is there a difference if it's positive emotions, or is it also okay to have negative emotions attached to new words?
It's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know how much research has been done on whether positive or negative emotions matter. But in my own personal experience, I would say that sometimes negative emotional experiences are also good hooks. They can also help you remember things, right? But if it's too emotional, maybe you will forget.
Silvio has typed a question.
Thanks, Silvio. Okay. What about, for example, Wahrnehmung? What do you mean by that, Silvio? Maybe you can expand on your question.
Yeah, Wahrnehmung in English is perception. I like this kind of learning with feelings, but I have trouble with a lot of words, for example, with perception.
Okay. So are you talking about concepts, maybe?
Yeah, there are not really pictures for this. What about with words without, good pictures? Yeah.
Sure, that's a really super question, and something that I struggled with too in German. So, how do we do it? And I think sometimes for some words it can even be easier with concepts. So let's take perception as an example. Maybe when we type in perception into Google, we may see an eye, maybe with some lines on it, going to something or something like that, or we may have the senses, pictures of the senses. So those different images, again, we're coming back to those images. Whatever images help us remember will help us remember that word. And the key here too is a deeper level of processing. So I'm not talking about just typing the word perception into Google Images and take the first image and look at it. I'm talking about a deep level of processing. So one should maybe draw the picture themselves, or try to draw a picture that represents perception themselves, or maybe what is my understanding of perception, right?
Can I add one?
Please.
So for that very word perception, maybe I will just share how I interpret it or what my hooks are to it. And I would say those don't have to be your hooks. But for me, it works like this. So I know the word receive. Receive means I get something. So it's a movement towards me, receive. I receive a gift, I receive something. And now perceive, well, it also has sieve in it. So I get something. And perceive, okay, it's about the senses. I've learned sometime that Wahrnehmung is perception, and just repeating it over and over again. Now I know perception and perceive is the same thing as the German Wahrnehmen and Wahrnehmung. So, but the sieve part of it, that's what triggered me. That's my hook. See, I get it.
Okay, so the image or the sound comes from externally into you. Okay, right. Yeah, sure. And that's another level of processing. So there are many different levels of processing, but images and personal connections are programmed for the human brain. That's what works really well. So we can also look at the visuals of the word. So when we write the word, what does it look like? Okay, with perception, it has a P at the start and then it has a nice little flow. You can use that. That is also a level of processing. What does the word rhyme with? Perception. It rhymes with reception. What is reception? Okay, that's another level of processing. So if we have a lot of trouble with a word, all we need to do is add more levels of processing so that we can really remember it. Okay?
Is everyone clear what processing means?
Oh yeah.
Does everybody know? Maybe we just make it clear, Ryan.
Yeah, please do, Daniel. Please help me out here.
Oh, am I the one? Okay, I thought you were going to say. Okay, so
No.
processing. A process is what runs in your head. Something is like in sign language, it's this sign, which is the cogs of your brain, so to say. So this is the motor of your brain processing data. So it's that's the picture that I have in my mind to explain the word. So processing in German means verarbeiten. So, and we all process the new words and new information individually. Everybody has a different type of understanding. I'm not talking about I'm the visual learner, I'm an audio learner, I'm a haptative learner. I'm not those learning types, but I mean the triggers that we get. Like when I say cup, what is the picture of your cup? So now here we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 different people. No, how many are we actually? Yeah, so around about 18 people. Each one has a different picture or feeling inside your brains or inside your body of what is a cup. So let me show you. I have a cup here. Who thought of that? Only I thought of that because it's right here. Or maybe I have another cup and this looks like this. Is this a cup? It is also a cup. But question is, what is your cup? And that's perception. Perception means you have your own picture, your own understanding. There's not one cup for all.
Sure. Good explanation, Daniel. Thank you for that. Cool. Okay. Does anyone have a question that they would like to ask? No? Okay. Cool. Let's go on to the next point. So when it comes to memory, recalling is better than reviewing. So let's break that down. Reviewing. What is reviewing? It's when we look at material that we have already looked at. So I don't know if anyone has heard the term rote learning before. It's probably, everybody has probably done this before, where they've seen a list that they have to learn and they've looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. That is rote learning. It's repetitive learning. Okay. And reviewing is when we do that type of memory work. Daniel, you want to say something? I can see it.
Yes, good. You're watching me very close. That's good. In German, that would be nochmal durchgehen. Ich gehe das nochmal durch für die Arbeit morgen. Reviewing. Nochmal durchgehen. Yeah.
Good. So, and recalling is much better than that. So what do I mean when I say recalling? So we learn something, we learn our new word, perception, and in a few days, what we do is we try to use that word again. We recall it. okay, we push our mind to say, okay, what was that word or what was that concept? And I want to look at it again, okay? And what I'm doing, instead of looking at a paper or at my notes that has the word on it, I'm trying to get it from my memory. What that does, it builds the neural connections in your brain to find that memory. So what you're doing is you're strengthening the path to remember that word. And I'm a big fan of space repetition systems. So SRCs. And what a spaced repetition system is, it's a fancy name for those flashcards that everybody used to have, right? You have a set of cards. On one side you have the word, and on the other side you have the definition. Okay, that is a repetition system, but a spaced repetition system uses recalling in a much more efficient manner. So words that are easy to remember go at the back of the deck of cards. So we don't see the word for a longer time. If the word is difficult for us to recall, if we cannot recall the word perception, we will show ourselves that word again after a short period of time. So maybe tomorrow. Okay, there is software out there that does this for us, but a simple deck of cards will also do the same thing. How do we do that? On one side, we write the word we are trying to remember. On the other side, we write our definition in the target language. On one side, we have the English word. On the other side, the English definition. Why? Because translation is not what we want to learn. We want to learn the language. We want to put our brain into that language. And each time we translate, we remind our brain that actually German or Spanish or French is the word, our language. Your native language is the important one, and this other one is not so important. But if we only let our brain use the target language, English, for example, then we are more likely to remember it. Okay. Daniel, did I explain that okay?
To me, yes, but I know it already. Let me give you pictures. So you said reviewing is not so good, but we should do recalling. So the picture of reviewing is, I'm reading this again, reading again and again. And then I think I don't have it, so I must read again. So those are the body parts in English. So it's arm, the thigh, and I read again. So what is it? That's reviewing, reading again and again. But you say I should recall. Now, what do I do?
That's right.
I don't look at it. I just try to remember what is here. What does it say? Last week or yesterday, I wrote it and I try to remember, what did I write here? What was it about? I don't cheat and look. I don't look. I try to recall.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, thank you for that much clearer explanation. Yes, of course. So it's about not looking. It's about using your brain to try to find that word in there, because it is in there. It's often the recalling. Everybody's had that experience when speaking their target language. You know the word, or somebody says the word for you. You said, I know that word. So it's a recalling problem. It's not a memory problem. The word is there. You just have to practice this recalling process.
Lauras, he typed something in the chat box about the software. Can you name any software?
Yeah, sure. So there are many different softwares out there for it. It's a spaced repetition program or spaced repetition software. I use a platform called Anki, A-N-K-I. I can just type that for you. Anki, I'll put it in the text, in the chat. Just everyone. Anki is a web-based software that has always been free and hopefully will stay free, except for Apple or iOS users. So unfortunately, the iPhone version does cost money, but it still is a very cheap version of this type of software. It gives you 4 options to choose from. You can look at the card in 1 day, in 1 week, in 1 month, or 1 year. And the science says that after 1 month is where you should be aiming for. If we recall a word after 1 month, generally, it's in our long-term memory. And Anki is a great resource there. It's a good tool. It works well. Yeah. The other point on the spaced repetition programs, build them yourself. Put your own words in there. Okay, this is a process that takes a long time, but it's a very deep level of processing. So if Silvio is trying to remember the word perception, he will type in perception on one side. Then he may look at the monolingual dictionary, so the English dictionary, and see that perception means the action of senses or something, and he will put in his own words the definition on the other side. Okay, so he will use words he already knows to create the definition. Now, to add an additional level of processing is to use the cards, the physical cards, and to write it with your hand. So the muscle memory and the act of writing is also a deeper level of processing. Okay.
Barbara has a question.
Please, Barbara.
She typed it.
Oh, okay. How could people use different types of memory for recalling? How could people use different types of memory for recalling? Okay, so there are 2 types of memory. You have your long-term memory and your short-term memory. And short-term memory can hold 7 plus or minus 2 items in it, and it's really only lasts for a matter of seconds and sometimes minutes. You want your language to go into your long-term memory. And of course, the only way to do that is by having these deeper levels of processing. If something is in your short-term memory, it will only last a short period of time. I think that's what Vavara means. Vavara, if I've misunderstood your question, please clarify.
Not actually. So I would like to ask you, so there are different types of people that are more visual, they would like to hear something, or they need to write down some things, and how people can use these differences to be more successful by recalling.
Yeah, okay, I understand now, thank you. So the psychological research has shifted in the past years. There was a big focus on different types of learners. So somebody is a visual learner, another person remembers better with listening, and that type of thing. This has been not debunked, not denied, but it is less believed now than what it was. So the science is changing. But what they now believe is that humans naturally are visual learners. We are better at learning things that we can see and we can create in our mind. That's why concepts can be difficult, because you can't see them, you can't see a perception, right? So yes. If you are a person, look, I love listening. I can listen to German all day, and I believe I get a lot from that experience. But I do that because it fits in with my lifestyle. I spend time in the car, or I spend time walking, and I can listen to the language. So what I really say is whatever fits into your lifestyle, do that, because every day you will need to learn your language every day. And if it's not enjoyable for you, you won't continue it.
Exactly. Can I come in there for a second?
Please do.
Yeah. So major part here is, well, you want to love what you're doing. It creates a positive experience and it will help you repeat it tomorrow. If you like it today, you will do it tomorrow again because it's a nice thing. If you don't like it today, it's hard. I must read all this, or I cannot understand what they say. Well, tomorrow again, maybe yes. In 2 days, next week, probably not. So just go for what works and is fun. And the more fun it is, the more likely you will be to skyrocket, to make it up to the top. Positive emotions.
Thanks for the question, Vavara, and thanks for the explanation too, Daniel. Yes, so we focused a lot on learning vocabulary. The reason we've done that at the beginning is because it is often the biggest challenge that people say to us. They say, I can't remember words, and these tips should be able to help you there. But saying that, speaking is so important. So production of the language or use of the language in all situations is also very important. So I've met people, they're very good at writing English, very good at texting, but when it comes to speaking, they have a lot of trouble. So we need to practice that too. It is part of it. And it's another deeper level of learning that language. Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, I've got a question here. Hang on one moment. Connie, my problem. Can I read your message there, Connie?
I can read it out for you.
Yeah, please, Daniel, please do.
Okay, so Connie says, my problem. It is important to find an order for improving or repeating. Starting with repeating grammar, vocabulary, listening to podcasts. So I always think so much about tenses and avoiding mistakes when I have to speak.
Yeah, mistakes. That's a really fun topic for me. So,
but Ryan, before that, I didn't read it well enough. The first one was a question: which one should I start with? With repeating the grammar, with the vocab, listening to podcasts, where to start?
Yeah, sure. So, how does a child learn?
Right, Connie? Am I right? Did I get it right? Okay, she's nodding. Yeah, cool.
Thanks, Connie, and thanks, Daniel. So, where should Connie start? So, I always say, how does a child learn a language, right? Does a child learn a language by starting with grammar topics? No. Does a child learn a language by trying to learn vocabulary? In a way, kind of. When we show them the cookie, here's the cookie, kid. Look at you can have the cookie. They connect the word to the image. Humans or adult humans learn a language the same way as humans do. Okay, the process is the same. So I would focus on listening. I think listening is the most important skill when it comes to learning a language. It's something we can do at any time. It's the resources that are out there and available now are fantastic. They're free, and you can use them anywhere. I spent hours in my car, and I spent hours listening to Germans talk about all sorts of different things.
Let me give you one. I will type it into the chat box.
Please do, Daniel.
So I might have shared it with a couple of you guys in my courses, that story, but I love it. So I'll just share it with you again. So, and when I went to a restaurant, You know, one of the Chinese restaurants, you get one of those little cookies and you crack them open and you have the little piece of paper. And on those piece of papers, and there's one thing, I kept it in my wallet for years. And there's that saying, it goes like this: if you speak, you repeat what you already know. If you listen, you learn. Chinese wisdom, and listening is the key. So that's what I just wanted to add up.
It's a good point. Yes, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yes, that's another good one. Okay.
Yes, so I love watching my daughter, my little daughter. She listens and listens and listens with a lot of attention. She watches how the mouth moves, and she watches how our eyes move when we speak, and she repeats it too. She speaks. She speaks after we speak, and when we say something different to what she has said, she says it that way too. So this repetition of the correct way of speaking is a much better way to learn. And you mentioned mistakes then, and you said you're concerned about tenses and avoiding making mistakes. Mistakes are wonderful. So embrace your mistakes, love your mistakes, because that is when you will learn. If you are speaking to somebody who knows, a teacher or your partner, your speaking partner, they can repeat what you said in the correct way. And that is the best way to learn a language. It's how we teach children to learn a language. We don't scold them. We don't tell them, no, that's the wrong way to say that. We simply repeat it in the correct way. And that's how kids learn too, since how we learn. So often when I'm speaking German and I say something, I will think, now that wasn't correct, and that was a mistake. And I'll remember the next time I hear somebody speaking in that way or saying that type of thing, that I need to concentrate. I need to think about that. And that's what really helps me, is this concentrating and making the mistakes. I really like mistakes. It gives people an opportunity to help you, and that's a great thing, right?
So Connie's question that was, right? So starting with repeating grammar, vocab, listening to podcasts, where do I start? Do you feel like you know where to start now? Connie, do you feel the start is no? You can unmute yourself and ask something. I think it's better if you just speak, so Ryan can also hear you.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My problem is I had a bad English teacher at school. I'm from Eastern Germany, and our teachers they don't have the chance to learn it in England. They couldn't go to England, and so I am starting to improve my English with grammar. Yeah. Because I don't like it when I how can I say it? And I don't understand something.
Sure.
Present perfect continuous. When I have to use this, and when I have to use the continuous tenses, and so I think a lot about that, and so I lose my I think I don't have the right way.
Sure. And would you want to go first?
It's okay. I can you can say something, Daniel. Please go ahead.
All right, I would like to take that one.
Yeah, sure.
So first question back to you: when you're German and when you speak in German, how much do you think about the grammar? How often do you use Plusquamperfekt in one day?
I know what you mean.
Yeah. How often do you use Konjunktiv 2 in Futur? Never. You never do that, but because you don't think about it, you just speak. And so the real question is it okay to do mistakes? And
I hate doing mistakes.
that's the question. That's the question that you're asking. you must learn to love mistakes. Without, I mean, listen to little children. And we all have many children around us somewhere in our families or at home, and they just don't get it right. They never do. But we are so forgiving towards the children, but not to us when it comes to doing mistakes. So
I always listening to a podcast, and then I hear a sentence, and he said the sentence in present perfect continuous, and I stopped the podcast and I think about why present perfect continuous, and so I look into my books and
yes. And okay, and also one second part to my answer, and then I'll stop. Is grammar useless? No, it's not useless, but it's overrated. It's not a good starting point, but we need like a tiny bit of grammar. We do need to learn faster. Learning or grammar is only good if it boosts our learning, if we are quicker through it. And it can definitely do that, but we should not put it at the start.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Daniel. That's the perfect answer. Yeah, I would have said the same, that grammar goes at the end. Grammar goes at the end when we start to perfect our language skills. Of course, as Daniel said too, it's really important to, if it can enhance your learning along the way, then that's great. If it can speed up the way you learn, maybe you get stuck on a certain grammar point, then focus on that for a little bit. You are an adult, so you have a different way and more ability to look at the grammar points than children do, right? So you can use that as an advantage.
Yeah, and also naturally, you'll run into difficulties when you don't know your grammar. So the car is being driven by an old man. Is being driven? Huh? And yeah, and then you learn, oh, it's passive voice. So wird gefahren. Okay, so I have that in German, and then you understand, and that's about it. Now you know the grammar. And if you come to us, we will throw you in the deep end. so to say, we'll just give you those examples where you will go like, what's that? And then we'll just explain it, and then you'll know it, and then we're done with the grammar for today. But so
many of my students know this, and I've told it to many of them before, but I listened to so much German that sometimes I would say things in correct grammatical form and with the right vocabulary, and I would swear to them I'd never heard that word before, and I don't know what that grammar is. And that happens a lot. It still happens now. Sometimes things come out of my mouth and I think, where was that? Where did that come from? And it's just because of listening and listening and listening. Okay? It's related to the grammar too. Sometimes it just feels right. Okay? It's a matter of time, Connie. It just takes time. Okay. Good. Thank you so much for the question. Really, really cool. Some great topics there we got to touch on. It's cool. Good. Anyone else? I will move on to the next little point that we have here. The good thing is we're covering some of the points I wanted to cover already, so cool. Yeah, this next big one. Learning the sounds and pronunciation of the language is key. Learn like a child. So we've talked a little bit about learning like a child, so we might leave that to the side. But learning pronunciation of a language is so important. I put it well before grammar and well before vocabulary too. So pronunciation. Why is pronunciation important? If I say a word and I pronounce it incorrectly, the person that I'm speaking to doesn't understand what I say, right? If I say a sentence and I use the incorrect grammar or the incorrect grammatical structure, the person will still understand what I say if I use the right pronunciation. So when it comes to communication, learn the pronunciation first as we said before, the grammar will come later. If your pronunciation is not right, work on that first. That's really, really important. How does one work on pronunciation? So again, it comes back to listening. One has to be a mimic a little bit. One has to think about how to pronounce the words in their mouth. And it's something you really have to practice. You have to watch a native speaker talk. You have to watch a speaker of the language speak. Really concentrate on it. Concentrate on the way they move their lips. Concentrate on the sound itself. Try to do it yourself. Probably alone, not on the train, but it will make you a better communicator. Pronunciation will make you a better communicator. Daniel, I think you've got a bit to say about this.
Yes, I would like everybody to learn one piece of pronunciation right now. Are you ready to do that?
I'm ready.
Oh, you don't need to learn it, but you can support. Okay, so the piece of information that I would like to get across is this. It's one little sound. It's called schwa. Schwa? Yeah, you don't have to know the sound. Just the sound goes like this. It's the smallest possible sound, and we do it always in English. And right now you don't know what I'm talking about, but in a second you will. So I say one sentence really slowly, or a phrase really slowly. It's a piece of cake. So we use that phrase when something is really easy in English, but we don't say it's a piece of cake. We say it's a piece of cake. A piece of cake. A piece of cake. Notice the difference. I don't say off. I say and that's the schwa. So you can try with your mics on or off, but I will say it quickly once again. A piece of cake slowly, and then quickly a piece of cake, and then you go. Okay, a piece of cake. Yeah, a piece of cake. Now, question is, how does it feel? How does that feel to you? Strange, right? Because it's no.
Come on, Silvio. Silvio, give us an example. Say it again, please.
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake.
Very good.
Piece of cake, yeah.
I think you've done it.
It goes out, so it's a piece of cake.
Yes, yes, that's it. That's exactly it. Silvio, you've got it. And also, Lutz, you're not muted. I could hear. Good job. Good job, Lutz. Yes. He's got it.
Really good. Really good.
Pick it up and put it in the bin. Pick it up and put it in the bin.
In a bin. In a bin.
Very good.
And and this is fun. That's why pronunciation goes first, because it's fun. And it's easy when it works. You do it because it's so cool. So, okay, back to Ryan, sorry.
No, Daniel, thank you so much for that. That's absolutely such an important point. It has to be fun, right? It has to be fun, or else you won't continue it. And yes, learning pronunciation is really fun, especially in a group.
Especially in German, Ryan. How is your German doing?
Yeah, es geht. Es geht.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Are there any questions there? Would anyone like to ask a question? Oh, good. Okay.
I have an add-on. I'm sorry. Pronunciation. How you just said start with pronunciation and by listening. How can people learn pronunciation?
Yeah, sorry, we didn't speak so much about that, did we? Yes. How does one learn pronunciation? So listening, of course, is key. That is what we have to do, and we also have to mimic. We have to try to create the same sounds as the person does that we're listening to. This, if you're alone, can be a tedious or a difficult process. You need to find the sound bite, the small syllable of information that you're having trouble with, hear it, and then repeat it.
Brian, I disagree. I want to say, no, it's good, but it's not the complete picture.
Sure.
I would like to add, you need another person to do it.
Of course.
Like, because you can see the mouth moving all the time.
Yeah.
That's important. You've got to move because it's muscle. Pronunciation is muscle movement. And just from hearing, Vavara, can you please do that one Russian sound? They have in Russian, they have a vowel. It's between E and U. It's a you know.
Мышь, it's как мышь.
And okay, I try to say, and you say if it's good or not. Mysz.
Not perfect.
So okay, thank you, Barbara. Thank you. So the point here is, I need her to tell me it's good or not good, and I need to hear from her what is good, and then repeat it. So I think on pronunciation, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, sure. You absolutely need somebody who knows the sound, who can differentiate the sound. In Japan, they are using software for...
In Japan, they have a talk show, because in Japan, let me show you this. Hold on, where is it? Yeah, I have this Fluent Forever book. And there is a sound, and you know how they cannot pronounce L right in Japan?
L and the R.
Exactly. And so what happens, so in English, or also in German, we have L and R, or R. So, but in Japanese, they don't have L, they don't have R, they have one sound in the middle that we don't know. And it's the hardest sound to learn in Japanese. We cannot even hear it. Now, the thing is, they cannot hear the difference between the two R and L. And they have a talk show where people have two buttons, and they hear a sound, and the sound is R or L, and the participants have to push the button. They get always wrong, like 50% right or wrong. It's just, and the thing is, they cannot learn it. They can only learn it even after 2 weeks practice, 50% rate straight. They don't get it right. But how do they learn it? They can learn it when there is an immediate response. So they push the button and net, red lamp, wrong. They push the button, bing, green, it's right. And that immediate feedback, that helps them. So if I were to learn with Varvara, she tells me no, no. And then she says yes. Oh, that helps me also in speaking and getting it right. So that's what you need to immediate feedback, right? Wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And so that immediate feedback is for the hearing. So first we have to hear the difference. That can be very hard. I had a lot of trouble hearing the difference between the German vowels. And it took me a long time to get that right. I didn't have any of these tricks up my sleeve when I first started learning German. And yeah, now I can hear the difference.
Barbara has written a question in the chat box.
What to do if I'm afraid to speak sounds? Okay, what to do if you're afraid to speak sounds? In front of somebody, Vavara, or at home alone? Well, what do you mean?
I mean that sometimes I noticed that it's very difficult to pronounce some sounds, and I'm afraid, and my mouth is just, it can't pronounce anything. So just stop. So what should I do in this case?
Well, I'm Australian, and it comes easy to me to laugh at myself. Okay, and I think for me that's the key. I don't know. It's a hard thing. Daniel, what can she do if she feels embarrassed when she makes these sounds?
I would like to connect my answer with Silvio's question. He's asking, maybe learning songs is a good idea. So is learning songs a good idea for pronunciation? I would say no. don't use songs ever, but it's just my personal opinion. So you might just go your own way and just nail it with songs. But regarding to Barbara's question, are you afraid to speak out sounds? Start alone at home. Try to get it right in your own little room. If you cannot do it there, you will not be able to do it out there. But at home, the chances are high you can make it.
Yeah.
For example, one sound also, because other people hear it and then they say, what are you doing here, right? So one sound for Spanish that I needed to learn was the r, el perro, r. I couldn't do it, but with practice, it worked. It needed 6 weeks of daily practice, and then I got the first perro, el perro, and it worked. But even now, I'm not 100%, but I can do it. So, but I did it at home.
And I think, yeah, that's the first step there is, so hearing the difference, Vavara, that's your first step, then maybe doing it at home, second step, and then having a teacher that you trust enough to make stupid sounds in front of. I think that's the key.
Manuel is asking, why is learning songs not a good idea? Not a good idea because a lot of the songs are not easy to hear. Think of German songs. When you were a child, how many of them did you get right? And how many of them did you learn when you were 16? How many did you find out what they really are saying? It's really difficult to hear. It's not clear language. It's not a clear input. If you're really into it, at a certain age, like when I was 17, 18, I loved music and I looked up all the lyrics and I was really listening to what they were saying in the songs, also rap songs and everything, and I sang along. Okay, then it's good. So with the research, with the extra time, you try to sing along every time. You don't care if people are making fun of you or laughing at you. You don't care about that. You try to sing that song. You're good. If you do that. But most people just are not that brave. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with Daniel there. Often the English in the songs is pretty terrible too. That's one thing you have to remember. Yeah, but that's okay.
Connie has a question, Ryan.
Thanks, Connie. What do you think about watching English movies with subtitles? Yeah, great question. And we would have talked about this, I think, Connie. This is a fantastic question. German subtitles don't do it. It doesn't make any sense because you're concentrating on one language, on your native language, and you're not training your brain at all. But English with English subtitles is okay. It's good training. You are hearing the English language and you're connecting it to the words as well. I think it's one of the most efficient ways actually to learn a language. I think it's why Daniel and I might not have a job teaching English in a few years, right? All of the young kids are watching YouTube videos and there's no dubbing for that. There is no German translation for that. So they are learning English in its most authentic, its real form. So they're learning it from other kids, and it's the best way they can learn. They will be better speakers of English than this generation now than any generation so far.
Mm. And again, well, do you think, what about watching English movies with subtitles? Well, is it still fun for you to watch them? That would be the question. I said in the beginning, it needs to be fun. If it's not so much fun for you to watch, you just keep reading and you miss the whole story, well, maybe it's a wasted evening afterwards. So, yeah. So I would say only to that extent that it is fun should you use things like this. You shouldn't focus, I must learn English. I'm going to destroy the television. No, just take it easy, enjoy the movie and try to pick it up. But like Ryan said, well, put on English subtitles. So if you cannot hear something very clearly, at least you can then read. But yeah,
I'll just make one more comment about films too. Have your teacher tell you some good films too, because for example, I don't know, Reservoir Dogs or anything from Quentin Tarantino you can forget about in English, right? The language is
why? Yeah,
the language is difficult and it's very complicated and it's not the right thing. So that's one important point. And my next point was,
let me ping for anybody who is learning German. I can see you guys. You're all out there. For anybody learning German, you too, Ryan, don't start with German comedy. German comedy is the killer. You will not be able to laugh.
I like some German comedy. Tatortreiniger. I like that one. That one's funny.
I said don't start with it.
Okay. Good.
Laura has a question.
Okay, how about reading books? Okay, cool. Good question. Yeah, reading books is great if you enjoy that. Absolutely, I read a lot, and I think it's a great way to learn nice syntax. It's a way to learn grammar. It's a way to have a deeper level of connection with the words. You're seeing the words written. Absolutely. If you enjoy it, fantastic. You're not hearing the language, so it's a little bit less efficient than maybe watching a film with subtitles on, but it's still a very valid and fantastic way to learn a language. Daniel, you're a little bit more of a fan than I am when it comes to reading, I think.
Not necessarily. Generally speaking, I would like to add this. Well, in the beginning of language learning, let's say the first 2 years, focus is definitely on speaking. Like it is when you're a little child. You don't give a baby a book. It's just too difficult. They will not have to learn how to read. So first you learn the speaking and the listening, and only later, when your language is a bit more advanced, you know enough words, you don't have to stop every other word and look it up in the dictionary. Only then should you start reading, and then you will advance the input of language. The quality of language is very different what you find in a written book, because it's just think about it. How much time do you have to plan your speaking? As I'm speaking right now, I can think the next 8 to 9 to 10 seconds, something like that. That's what's being like my plan. The speaking process in my brain just has that capacity. But how much time do I have to write a text and change that? Endless amount of time. So I can build way more complicated structures. All of a sudden there's a better word. I put that word in, I change it. So you will find a lot more vocab, a lot more complicated structures, and finer, more refined language in written form in books.
Yeah.
Should you start reading books? Depending on your level, as soon as possible.
Really good point there, Daniel. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Laura. Lauras? Thank you. Good. Okay. I don't see any more questions, so we'll move on to the next point. Good. We've touched on this already, Learn languages faster by avoiding translations. So how serious am I about this? I think this is the most important point from today. Don't learn to translate a language. Learn to speak it. You learn to use it. Every time you put a text or a word into a translator, you're taking a process away from your brain. You're taking away that deeper level of processing. Try to use monolingual dictionaries. Try to use the dictionary that's only in your target language first. What will happen if I look up the word perception in my dictionary? I will see maybe 2 words that I don't know. Perfect. 2 new words that I can learn. 2 new words that I can look up a different place in the dictionary to find. And then I can add those 3 words to my vocabulary. What I haven't done is just translated and found the German word. There's no processing there. There's no thinking involved, right? It's too easy. Yeah? Daniel?
Yeah. So you don't want to be lazy. Because it's like cheating. You remember when we said, don't review, try to recall? So you don't want to look and get the answer. That's what we did in school, all of us, because it was successful. But we don't want to do the same thing as we did. We used to do that in school. We want to actually use our brain. The more you use it, it's like a muscle, the stronger it gets. So we don't want to look up things and think German, English, German, English. No, we want to go out in the open, out in the wild, and just use it as good as we can. And this will make us stronger. And only after a short time will we be successful. And we will not need any translation whatsoever. You know, when I was in the United States, what I didn't have? Dictionary. Stupid me, I forgot to pack one and bring it. I didn't bring a dictionary. Did I need it? All the time, but I didn't have it. It was great. It was great. Out in the wild, not knowing anything, getting bad grades at school. In the beginning, because I'm a smart guy, only in the beginning, but I had to stay in school till the 10th lesson, because we had 8 lessons only, and 9th and 10th were only for the stupid people. So I had to stay and do assignments, homework, extra homework. Don't use your dictionary. This was the best time ever. Like, I can only recommend it. You might feel stupid, you might not understand 100%, but we don't need 100%. Look at the child. How often is your 3-year-old looking in their dictionaries? They don't ever look things up.
So Daniel's referring to a bilingual dictionary, so a German and English dictionary, I think. He's not referring to a monolingual dictionary where it's just one language.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
A monolingual dictionary where you have one language is a fantastic tool, and you should use it all the time, because it has all of your words that you need in it, everything.
Yeah. He is the replacement for your daddy. When you're a little child, who do you ask? What is this? What is that? It's daddy. Daddy will explain. So now we are grown up. Daddy is not there, as at least no English daddy. And what do we use? Monolingual dictionary. What is perception? Let me look it up. Daddy will tell you. You will understand. Yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Very good. Very good metaphor. Cool. Okay. Any questions there? If a question comes through, I'll come back. Okay. Our last point. Daily contact with the language is essential. So I think Daniel would like to talk about this point. So please go ahead, Daniel. Why is daily contact with the language so important?
Yeah, that's the one point I added to the list when in the beginning before Ryan, he said, "Oh, yeah, I have those points." I said, "I have one more point." Okay, now that's it. Why every day? Because it's just the technicality of learning a language. Your brain is a deleting mechanism. That's what they say. I don't buy that, but it's like you have to think of it. In your sleep, you sort out the things you don't know. So the next morning you feel fresh. You don't have all that old data that you don't need anymore. So you have space for new things. So that happens every day. You want to make sure your brain understands that you need those English words. So you remember it every day. You tell them every day, okay, I need this. And during the night, it will just let go of parts of the words, but over time it will see, okay, he's trying to tell me I need it, so I'll just keep it in for now. So daily learning is just also tested, tried and tested, proven to be most efficient. So 2 hours a week is not as good as 10 minutes a day. It's way more effective. But
So,
every day. 2 hours on one time in a week is not as good as 10 minutes 7 times a week. 70 minutes versus 120 minutes. The absolute numbers are bigger for the 1 times a week, 2 hours, but you're about twice as successful with the 70 minutes. You are able to remember twice as many words if you pack it in everyday packages.
yeah, thanks, Daniel. And my only comment to that is that I've seen this firsthand with my clients, my students, the ones who work on English every single day and respond to my messages and connect with me every day. They're the ones who see the most success. They're the ones who speak fluently after a period of time. It's the key. It really is so important. Contact every day with the language.
Avara has typed something.
Vavara has typed a very nice question. Do you all feel in love with English? So Daniel said there are some people here maybe who are not learning English and who are learning German, right, Daniel?
I think so.
Think so. Okay. Yeah. Are you in love with English? I think Daniel's certainly in love with English.
But it's to everybody. Question is to everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
yes, Connie's in love. Barbara's in love with English. Thank you for the question, Barbara. Silvio, how long did you frustrate yourself using monolingual dictionaries until it starts to be fun? Yeah, that's a really good question, Silvio. It's a little bit, and this is why I'm a little bit cold or not so excited about reading to learn the language, because it's a time-consuming way of doing it. And with a monolingual dictionary, it can be very time-consuming. Zeitverschwenden. You can use a lot of time looking up single words, absolutely, because when you find perception, there may be 2 words used to describe that word that you don't know. That's hard, I understand, but that difficulty, that pain is what is the deeper level. That's the deeper level of learning, and you're connecting it to an emotion. Fantastic, Silvio. You're connecting it to the emotion of frustration, which is a really, really powerful emotion. When I came to Germany and I couldn't talk to anyone, how angry did it make me feel? How frustrated was I? Every day that I couldn't talk to people, I said, this is stupid. I hate this. And I made a change. I learned the language. And it's the same with learning English, right? Same with the mono language dictionary. Get it out, frustrate yourself, connect with the frustration, learn those words, and it will work. Yep, I just deleted my Lingui app. Yes, thanks, Silvio. I know. So Lingui is a very good translator if that's what you need. But yeah, use a monolingual dictionary. I have a monolingual dictionary for German on my phone, and I use it on a daily basis.
Yeah, and one little practical detail, if you have a smartphone, if you have an iPhone, you can long press, long click. It's hard or difficult. I cannot show it here, also not on the screen. But if you long press on any written word, there will be a little pop-up with different options, copy, paste, and so on. And there is a little arrow that points to the right. If you click that, a new thing opens up and it says translate. You can use that monolingual dictionary of your Apple iPhone. I will post the video soon, and we can throw it out. I've already have one, and we can throw it out on Instagram and on the social media channels. It's a 1-minute video that you can all watch where I explain how to do it on an iPhone. But it's not only possible on an iPhone. Any one of you can go to Google and just type define : and then the word. So define perception. I'm typing it in the chat box. And then what will pop up, let me share my screen with Google. Oh, Safari Gusto. Why Gusto? I don't know why that. Because I looked up that one. Okay, so it's define perception. And here you see what Google gives you. More definitions, a lot of things. You can even listen to it. So the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses. So you find everything on Google as well, if you do it that way. So Google is a friend here too. With the they have the monolingual dictionary there too.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. Thanks, Daniel. Okay. So we're coming to the end now. Does anybody have any more questions about memory, about learning languages, anything there in that realm? No? That's okay. Good. All right. Then I think we're nearly finished there. Vavara, do you want to say anything at the end? So thank you for inviting everybody, and everybody, thank you so much for coming. Vavara,
I would like to say something about reading books. I'm started my German journey for 5 years and so on, and it was really hard for me to learn German. So I'm from Belarus, so I need to learn 2 foreign languages at the same time, so German and English. And with German, it was a little bit hard because I hated it as I was at school. And only when I was good enough in German, I started to read books. And the first book was really a challenge for me. And step by step, I noted that the 3rd book was fun. It was really fun. It was not every word to translate and to try to understand. No, it was just reading and to understand what is going on in this book. And I suggest to start with simple books, not with books for kids, really not for kids, not with story, but something simple, some articles, for example, and they just step by step go to the books that you are interested in. And when you go there, when you read the information about your interests, about your hobby, about your things that you love to do, for example, it goes easier and it makes fun. So really, so
we will post a list of books that we recommend for different levels on Instagram, or where are we going to do it? On social media, everywhere. On our channels.
We'll do it. So, and thank everybody for coming. It was really nice to see you all.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
Just one moment on the book reading thing. I want to hear a comment from my friend Silvio. Silvio, you have experience with books, the Harry Potter series. What can you tell us about the Harry Potter series as a book to help you with English?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I felt in love to Harry Potter. Yeah, a lot of years ago, and I read it in German first, and I thought it will help me to learn English if I try to listen first in English and then to read the books too. And it was a really great experience for me to do this. It was hard first, but later I realized sometimes that I understood anything, so without thinking, and this was great. It was the greatest moment, but it needs time, yeah. But I didn't did any pressure to myself, and I didn't try to understand, only listening. It was sometimes much easier to understand if you don't try this.
Sure, that's a really good point there, Silvio, and one I wanted to bring up too. You should try to listen, but don't worry if you don't understand. You should be at the point where you just don't understand everything. You don't want to understand everything. If you do, it's too easy. Go to the level that's just above what you think you can handle. And that's the last tip from me, I think.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for the lovely questions. Thanks for the attentiveness. It was really fantastic. And yeah, if you have any more questions about us, what we do, how we do it, we are always there. You can always contact us. I love speaking to people who are interested in languages, and Daniel is too. Get in contact with us and we'll be happy to help you if we can.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hope to see you all soon.
Thank
somewhere.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.